With the call from God, there comes a hope of a relationship with God. In the first reading, Abram received a call from God, and a relationship is established between the Lord and Abram and all of his descendants. Abram will later have his name changed to Abraham. When God changed a person's name or gave him a new name, it was usually to establish a new identity. Through those names, God gave new beginnings, new hopes, new blessings. It's a way of God pointing to that person and saying, look at this person. Pay attention to him or to her. Simon, you are Peter, the rock. Levi, the tax collector, you'll now be called Matthew. Saul of Tarsus, why do you persecute me? You will now be called Paul. Look at these people. He's signifying to us there's something that they're going to do that's important. Abram was not sure where God was calling him to go. Yet, he was obedient to God's call, which we all should be. Today's gospel that was just read to you is about the Transfiguration. Jesus invites his disciples to climb the mountain with him, and they experience a foretaste of the divine promises and the deepening of the relationship with Jesus and with his Father. Jesus desires them to know the glory of God. They were given a glimpse of what glory means. This was done to bolster their faith. Peter, James, and John did not fully understand all that God allowed them to experience. What does it mean to say he was transfigured? It is a process where Jesus changed form and appearance. Bishop Robert Barron describes this as a metamorphosis, which is going beyond the form that he had. And in doing that, he revealed some of his divinity to his chosen disciples, Peter, James, and John, at least as much as they were able to comprehend. In other words, he allowed them to see across to the other side, to see the true glory of the Christ. Before this transformation, there was doubt about Jesus. Even John the Baptist, while in Herod's prison, sent his disciples to Jesus to ask, "Are you he who is to come, or shall we look for another?" Matthew chapter 11. Today's gospel is loaded with symbolism. Any reverent and observant Jew of that time would immediately recognize the significance and see the connection between the moments leading up to and including the Transfiguration and the writings of the prophets of the Old Testament. First, Jesus takes his apostles up a high mountain to pray. Who else climbed a mountain to pray? Moses, he received the 10 Commandments on high on Mount Sinai. Elijah, he fled to Mount Horeb, and there he spoke to God. 1 Kings chapter 19. Recall that Elijah was in a cave, and a strong wind came. But God was not in the wind. And God was not in the earthquake that followed, nor was God in the fire that followed after that. But after all of it, God's voice was a whisper. Second, there is the vision itself. Moses and Elijah are conversing with the Lord. Why these two? Moses and Elijah. They represent the law and the prophets. Recall that Jesus said this, think not that I have come to abolish the law and the prophets. I have come not to abolish them, but to fulfill them. Matthew chapter 5. Third, there is the voice of God, and God said this, "This is my chosen Son, listen to him." God's command ensures us that if we obey Jesus, we will see greater and greater things. By this transformation, by this metamorphosis, by this transfiguration, God reveals his glory to us. We can also reflect on some of the things that have happened in our lives. We should also reflect on Paul's letter to the Galatians, chapter 2, verses 19 and 20. I died to the law so that I might live to God. I have been crucified with Christ, and it is no longer I who live, but it is Christ who lives in me. In the life I now live in the flesh, I live by the faith of the Son of God, who loved me and gave himself for me.